David Petrell says, how hard would it be to move from an ISO role to GRC? So an ISO role is a GRC. An ISO role is GRC, David. And so I'll explain it like this: governance, governance, risk management, and compliance is what I do. I'm an information system security officer, and I'm doing governance in that I'm working directly with managers. I'm working directly with, I'm a liaison between the managers and the system guys who are actually in the weeds. I'm helping with policy and procedure, making sure that I have to write them from scratch from time to time. I'm doing a lot of documentation, so that's the governance part, and then I'm doing risk management all day long. I'm working with I'm doing vulnerability, looking at the vulnerability management software, looking at the results that we get from our system to see, okay, what has priority over this vulnerability? How can we fix it? Hasn't been fixed yet, to try to mitigate the risks. Writing documents to help to mitigate risks. So I'm doing that kind of stuff, looking at scans and running scans and stuff like that. And then I'm doing compliance. Compliance is a real big part of what I do too. Keep in mind, I'm an information security manager, officer rather. So compliance, I'm making sure that the organization is meeting NIST 800, NIST 837. We're in the line with it. All the stuff we're doing is in line with that. We track our stuff in accordance with NIST CSF. So that's kind of, all of that stuff is governance, risk, and compliance. So governance, risk, and compliance. One thing you could ask here is, how can you go from one industry to another? Because if you're an ISO, I'm assuming that you're working for the federal government. Now, here's a trick. Here's a little thing I didn't realize until I ventured outside of the federal government. If you have these skills, if you've done the stuff I just named, like writing policies, looking at scan data, working with system managers, working with program managers, working with technical leads, working with system engineers, system admins, right? And you're like a liaison. They have the same job in every industry. In retail, they have it working with Walmart and all the big players. There, you've got it in IT services. I was working at Verizon, and they hired me because of those skills. They have it in healthcare, finances. All of these have a GRC. They don't call it well, sometimes they do. They don't normally call it a GRC person. They have their own names for it. They might call it, in healthcare, they might call it a HIPAA compliance officer, or they might call it cybersecurity engineer, but you're doing HIPAA stuff. They do the same thing we do, but with a different standard. And if you have exposure to the NIST 800, you can do just about any other framework, because it is the most robust, arguably the most robust framework and set of cybersecurity rules and best practices that are out there. If you compare it with any different standard, with the exception of maybe some private ones that are out there. But yeah, it's more robust than ISO 27001. It's more robust, arguably, than take your pick, PCI DSS. It has way more going on than any of those frameworks out there. The only ones that might be able to be bigger or be more exhaustive will be some private ones that are out there here and there. So if you know that, you need to learn how to put those skills, or to explain those skills in your resume and put it everywhere, and then you'll be reached out. Other organizations and industries will reach out to you. I get organizations from just about every sector reaching out to me, because I know the NIST 800, and I have a lot of exposure with writing documents and stuff like that. I worked for the healthcare industry, writing some of their documents, financial sector, looking at their security controls, Once you have an idea of how these things work, and you read up on PCI DSS, you'll see where there's a lot of crossover between those. It'll make you extremely valuable across several different domains and several different industries. And Larry says, there is no plan. The goalposts moved each week. It's impossible to properly plan this way. And they're asking people to make life-changing decisions with minimal information given. It's a shame. I agree with you. This won't end well in many ways. Yeah. So what's happening right now? What's happening right now? This is in real time. Is in my space, in the federal space as a contractor, is there's a few things that are going to impact us. One is the end of remote work. They're trying to end remote work within 30 days or something stupid, right? And then another thing is a reduction of force, a huge reduction. They're attempting to reduce the force by a lot, like not just a few, like half or more. They're ending some departments. I'm sure you're hearing about on the news. They're just done. Cancel it. Done. Nobody. Don't show up to work. We'll pay you for 3 weeks, whatever, or 4 months, whatever it is. Those are the main two things. One thing that's kind of in the shadows is that they're just taking information from these organizations. I'm just surprised as Americans, people aren't more concerned with what's going on, because that's a clear violation of privacy. And if we know anything, we know that if large organizations can just grab your information, maybe you trust the organization or the person taking the information, but that's not really just the point with cybersecurity. It's that data, if anybody can just take it and hold it, maybe they have the secure place that they put it so there's no problem, that motherfucker can get hacked. So what are you doing? There's reasons why we don't just let anybody take the data without oversight, without any kind of transparency, without right. That's a whole different conversation.